I didn't call you combative. Whatever he said, that was on him. That came out of his words. So give me the same respect when I'm not around. You can clearly feel away.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book 91. Little Black Book, you know what time it is. This is going to be a deep video because I want to be able to break down some real stuff to you today. I want to let you know why Lee and Jessica, for different reasons, didn't choose Chris. Inevitably, it's the same reason, but just in different angles, right? Because they present in two different ways. Now, Chris is an accomplished businessman. He's on point. He's somebody who's strong-minded. When he wants to put his mind to something, I can see that he goes and gets it. That's business. Relationship wise, I think following him for the course of the season, picking up tidbits of information, there's some things that I started questioning about Chris. And this particular episode, the blow up, really confirmed it for me. There's a reason why Lee and Jessica didn't choose him for specific types of reasons. And I'm going to break it down to you. And it's going to get deep real quick. And hopefully any man out here can listen to this as well. And any woman out here can listen to this as well too, because I think this is really important to discuss. The issue is masculinity and the way it presents itself. And we're going to discuss in full. If you're new to the channel, do me a massive favor. Like it, share, subscribe. Like this video right now. Go and get your finger, click on that like button. Share this video with some friends and some family and those who watch the show. And subscribe to this channel because we do education as well as entertainment around here. And we go deep with the commentary, okay? Oh, baby, it's a lot writing down, okay? We're trying to get to 100K subscribers, so please, if you can, no, not if you can, please partner with us, subscribe to us, share it with somebody who would also love something like this, a channel like this as well, and let them subscribe too. All right, we're gonna make it. All right, we're gonna make it by the end of the year, 100K. We're gonna make it by the end of the year. All right. For those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals, and for those of you returnees, know that the streets are hot. So stay hydrated. Okay, let's get into this. Let's get into this particular video, okay? I'm going to tell you the reason why this situation proved Lee and Jessica were not going to choose Chris.
About something. It ain't a something. Stop peddling around. We know what it is. Initially, you were my first connection until I realized how.
Okay, cool. So let's have a real conversation, right? Lee earlier on in the season, in fact, we saw an interview with her, with Lee and Crystal XO. One of the things she said that the reason why she didn't choose Chris is because he's just too nice. I think she felt like she would trample over him. Let's talk about Lee's reason why she didn't choose Chris. Because what Lee saw, without fully explaining it, is someone who was very nice. Not only would she trample over, but there would be a backbite. See, women are very astute sometimes, and they don't realize they're even perceiving something. They tell you, I don't know why, but I got a feeling. That feeling is your intuition. It is your ability to sense and feel things before it's necessarily manifested physically the way that you understand it. Oftentimes, intuition is piecing together information really quickly, and it presents itself as a feeling. Okay, both men and women have it, but oftentimes we ascribe it to women. But hey ho. Now, Lee earlier on was like, he's too nice. The word here is nice. When you are a nice person, you oftentimes are not a good, but you're not a good person. And I differentiate the two because nice people oftentimes manipulate people through their niceness. Their kindness is actually acts of manipulation. What I mean by that is it's not their true self. So whenever situations happen, like what happened with Jessica, when a person's being combative, quote unquote, to you, and they're being mean, quote unquote, to you, and you struggle to assert yourself and let the person know that I don't like that. This is not for me. Now, of course, we heard him say it. We saw him say to her like he wanted to change a little bit, but when the way that a message is delivered, the assertiveness in that message is critical. Because an individual can say it like, oh, I don't like that. And the other person reading it like they don't really mean this. Like, because when you are saying something with a particular tone, there's a sternness that comes in. And sometimes a nice guy or nice girl refuses to use a stern tone because they're scared of being disliked. They're scared of a reputation being, oh, this person's mean, or they're scared that the person's going to take it a particular way and say, you're this and that. The fear is all about reputation. The fear is all about no longer being nice. And so they end up being extra sweet, extra nice, even when they're given critique back. We saw that with Chris and Jessica. And so what happens is the other person is like not taking them seriously. Others don't take them seriously. I don't take them seriously. But before we get to that point with Lee, oh, she took him seriously, but she also knew there's a nice nasty in there. Because somebody who's so nice and is getting trampled upon time and time and time again, to a point where you guys are defending him at the end of the show, you defend him in the lounges, tells me that he doesn't defend himself the way you want him to defend himself. He's too nice. See, defending yourself is about being good. You hold good boundaries. You're able to assert yourself and let the person know in a kind, loving manner, without it being aggressive, that hey, I don't play those games. This is my boundary. You're not going to do that anymore. You see the tone I took? Children also understand this too, right? Stop doing that. We're not playing those games anymore. Come here now. The tone is assertive. It's not aggressive, right? The words that I'm using are not to be aggressive. They are to be assertive. They're letting you know I'm not in a mood. Stop doing that right now. I don't like that. Why? Because it shows a level of frustration that you have, but it shows a restraint that you have. Nice guys don't have good restraint. They're dangerous. And I'll tell you why. Because they let things build and build and build and build and build, and then it explodes. Boom. Just like it did for Chris. And Lee, being the woman that she is, okay, being most women would have, clocked that. The niceness isn't real. It's manipulation. It's not really real. And so you know that. That's why women say, I don't like a nice guy. What they really mean is, I don't like a guy that is not telling me his true, authentic feelings. He's storing things up, and they are very much aware it's going to happen. It's going to explode, because I can see you piling up. I can see the hill beginning to grow, and eventually, kablam. But who gets the brunt of the kablam? You do. Because you're going to do something and they're going to kablam, and all that niceness or something. Like, I thought you was a nice person, because you've built up this whole reputation of yourself and this representative. I thought you was a nice person. So what Lee has done is like realize, okay, wait, hold on. He's not assertive enough for me. But that also represents a problem, because he's a nice guy, which means this is going to come back on me later on. Now, she probably might not think of it that physically that way, but it's a roundabout way of thinking, right? Let's deal with Jessica. Let's go back to this particular incident, right? Jessica and Chris, interesting.
How of a person you were, and I'm like, I'm good. Like, you are combative. You are a mean girl. You and Janelle both.
I think you're angry.
So here's the funny thing about Jessica and Chris. They are two sides of the coin. They are two sides of a coin. She presents a very masculine energy in the way she presents relationship-wise. Chris presents more of a feminine relationship-wise. What I mean by that is he leans very much into the receiving, the feminine, the emotions aspect. And when I say emotions, not that you can't have emotions, but the emotional reactivity, the sensitivity, without there being a guard on oneself and regulating that. Right? Whereas Jessica, you see that she leans into being very direct, very assertive, very in your face, almost in a sense, right? We saw how she handled the whole combative things. She ended up being combative, insulting, cussing him, and then obviously then saying, you know, if someone's going to say this, just say it to my face. That kind of energy where you wanna almost war, right? And you see with Chris, the moment something's kind of said that you don't like, their emotions start to kick in. He starts feeling oversensitive. Even at the end of this video, he's almost about to cry. Why? Because it hurts. And so the covering of that wound where it hasn't been dealt with from childhood, because it is really from childhood that we're talking about with Chris, all right? These two are polar opposites. They are both in the wrong energy when it comes to relationships, right? And because of that, they're clashing. In their respective jobs, they can do whatever they want to do. But in the relationship format, they're clashing, because they're the same coin and they're inverted in their energies. It should be the other way around for both of them. Now, what's interesting is Jessica saw someone who was a leader, but she could not respect his leadership. She couldn't respect his leadership because he's more emotional than she is. Well, if you're more emotional than I am, how the heck are you going to handle me? That's what she's thinking. Chris is looking at Jessica going, well, I'm a leader. And looking at Jessica and going, well, there can't be two leads. And if I'm a leader, you're supposed to be following. And Jessica won't have that. right? So what Jessica saw with Chris also is the weakness. The weakness was the emotion. Now, having emotions are not a problem. There's nothing wrong with that. It is the way we handle it. It's the way we regulate it. Understand, process, express. Express especially. How do we express those emotions? How do we deal with difficult conflicts? And how do we go about it, right? Now, of course, there's a level of what we call assertiveness that comes into play. And one thing that I will say is this, right? I feel like Chris is in a place where he may feel comfortable in his masculinity, he might say, but what's being presented here is what I would call the temperamental stage of masculinity. Like it hasn't settled yet. And I feel like the comment that he made in this video was, respect me as a man. Now, let me tell you this honest truth. Can I be honest with you? I haven't said that since I was like 22. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. What I'm trying to say is that I was very insecure. I was very insecure. And I remember I said in an argument with one of the girls I was like, I was just like, oh, you don't respect me as a man. You don't respect me as a man. If it was other guys, you wouldn't do that too. You don't respect me as a man. You're disrespectful to me. Where's my respect as a man? And I have to realize the situation is this. Sorry, the realization of the situation is this. I wasn't even fighting her, really. I wasn't really angry at her. I was angry at the world and them not seeing me as an assertive man. They're not respecting me as a man, right? Because I see the respect that other men get. And the truth of the matter is, it's because I wasn't assertive enough. Finding a balance between aggression and being assertive, or I should say, being passive, is really important. If you go passive, you get run over like a lamb. If you be aggressive, people run away from you. You need to find a level where we call assertiveness. I don't know if Chris has found that in relationship form. I feel like Chris borders on the verge of passiveness, and that turns into control, because he has not found the balance in the assertiveness just yet in his masculinity. That is what Jessica saw. She saw somebody who was passive and used control, and she fought against it. Now, I'm not saying she's right. What I'm saying is she also fought against it because she lives in her masculinity in a relationship. She's guarded. She wants to control the other person to make sure she feels safe. And so the moment she feels any reins of control, she breaks it. That is why she was fighting against him so hard. But that's why he was fighting against her so hard, because both of them invalidated each other by their own behaviors. His behavior showed that his behavior towards her, and him trying to control her, said to her that, well, I must need more control, because clearly if he's trying to control me, he don't respect me, right? And he's also fighting her, because like if she's not submitting, then she must not respect me as a man, right? Both are trying to avoid painful situations. And what I see with Chris, because I'm dealing with Chris specifically in this situation, what I see with Chris is that with Jessica, he was fighting for his life. He was fighting to strive and prove he's a man. And whenever you're in a position where you're trying to prove that you are a man to someone, you've already lost. The battle is done. If you're trying to prove yourself to someone that you are a man, trust me, you're going to always go overboard. That's what we saw in that end scene, the overboard. And then you see this emotional reaction from Chris where he's in a chair. It's almost as if like he's about to cry. The emotions have been overwhelming. He's distraught. He's disastrous. Sorry, he is deeply hurt by what Jessica's doing. Her behavior is invalidating him as a man, so he feels. Her behavior is so mean to him, and he expected his niceness to combat her meanness, when in reality, what he needs to do is be like, listen, do what you want to do. I'm going to handle me. As far as I'm concerned, you know that we know that connection ended. It is what it is. But the reality is Jessica got underneath his skin because she was still hitting a wound he has not fully recovered from. See, when I was younger, I was always trying to prove that I'm a man. I have my father in my life, but I was far more feminine in my presentation because I was very much attached to feelings. Everything was about feelings, and I didn't have the necessary control over it. I was much of an empath, but I didn't have much control over it the way it presented itself. And so I was very sensitive, and I had to realize that I had to learn how to gain control over that sensitivity, because if I don't, I'm going to always react wildly. I'm always going to take things to heart. I'm always going to take things deeply. Oh, you did that against me? You're questioning my masculinity because you wouldn't do it to him. In reality, the situation is, what energy was I putting out in the first place? See, when I'm comfortable and I'm assertive, do what you want to do. If you want to disrespect me, I'll let you know. Listen, can I be honest with you? I don't like what you're doing right there. And you're kind of disrespecting me right now. I'm going to keep it cool, calm, collected. This channel has seen my growth. If you're a subscriber here, if you haven't subscribed, then you've missed out. But you need to subscribe now. Okay? All right? Because I'm an honest person. I keep it real 100, and I use me as case studies. 2 years ago, we had Married at First Sight. We did a whole panel, myself and another colleague, Sean. We talk about this all the time, right? Where I was very sensitive, that I got triggered by the subject, and I was fighting those who were in the panelists, those who were in the audience, and I was fighting to prove a point, right? Because really and truly, I was triggered because the subject of a man being abused, I felt like that's what had happened to me in some aspect, and it was questioning my masculinity, because if I got abused by a woman, now my masculinity must not be on a certain level. And I didn't realize it's affecting, it's tainting the way I'm responding to the scenario. And after that particular situation happened at those panels for a couple of weeks, I sat back and I said, damn, I'm very emotionally reactive. When I get emotionally aroused, I don't consider what's happening around me, and I just go. And I realized this is not good training for me, and it's not good training for my audience. If I'm trying to get the audience to see that you must be emotionally regulated, it must start with me as a leader of myself and as a leader of this channel. So I had to do some extensive training. I went and read a book on people pleasing. I went and read a book on how to assert yourself. And I realized I struggle to assert myself. I keep quiet and let things build and build and build, and then boom, it explodes. Or I'll struggle to say no, and I'll find a passive aggressive way of saying no rather than saying outright, I don't want to do it. Get someone else to do it. Right? So now I had to grow in that phase. And that took me a few years. I was 28, 29 when I've really deep this. That's 7 years that I've clocked it from when 22 I'm making those comments, and probably even younger than that, even actually saying that. And I'm making these comments now. I'm giving that to say that within that 22 into 29, it was a temperamental phase where I'm trying to learn how to be more assertive. And it was only the last year that saw major growth, because it was actually input into the way that I show up. And so I started realizing, okay, I've got to change the way I'm showing up. It's not good. I had to input new knowledge to get different output. And one of the things I had to focus on was remaining calm, not suppressing. I feel the way. The Bible says, be angry, but sin not. I'm not going to suppress that I'm angry. You understand what I'm saying to you? I'm not trying to suppress it, and I'm not going to deny it. Hey, I'm angry. I'm frustrated a little bit. But what result do I want? Okay, I'm angry, but what's the best kind of action what's the best course of action right now? If I start giving into my emotions to get me emotionally aroused, guess what's going to happen? They're going to get a wild response. No. Let's stay calm. Oh, okay. You're flying off the rails. Oh, okay. I feel it. Let me still put my point across, though. Here's how I feel about the situation. Right? And when you start doing that, you start taking control and start mastering your emotions. This situation where she comes out and says what she's doing to you throughout the course of the season, the reason why Chris flipped is because the whole entire season, he's been letting it build. She's been getting at him, and you haven't been letting her know. So now, whatever happens at the end, that little prod is sent you over the edge. I'm not about to let you get me to a point where I'm going to say, fuck you. No. And you guys have seen it. If you watched me, you've watched me do it several times with both men and women. Oh, okay. Oh, you get irate. Okay. Let me cool down. Because if I start getting irate, I'm going to lose it, and I'm going to lose my sense. I don't want to be in that place. Calm it. Okay. I can get passionate. Don't worry, I can get passionate. But I have to remember, don't lose yourself in the passion that you start to get so fired up, you lose sense of the moment, and you start raging on the emotion and letting that dictate to you. And that's what happened to Chris in that moment, right? And that's the weakness, is that the emotion started to dictate in that moment to a point where you tell her, F you, you're evil, right? You're evil. And then you're sitting there almost in tears. So that weakness Jessica saw, she wasn't about it, right? Neither was Lee. Now, am I insulting Chris? No. I want Chris to understand something. In your business world, you're dominating. In relationship worlds, you're not. And I can see it. And it's not because you're bad. It's because you're still fighting for your life and the manhood. You're still fighting for your life in how to assert yourself in a way that you don't feel uncomfortable when you assert yourself. Where you don't feel uncomfortable saying, I don't like that. Right? Because that reaction is of somebody who doesn't assert himself and has let it build up. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below. You know, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you agree what my sentiments are? Do you believe that Chris, you know, his weakness was emotions? Do you feel like he's oversensitive? Or do you feel like Jessica's just a mean person and you can understand why Chris actually ended up reacting the way he did? Let me know your thoughts down below. I want to know what you think. Hey, make sure you comment. Don't leave this video without commenting, without liking the video. And if you haven't done so,